we just had something really interesting come out that points towards signs of a Fed pivot, and the market now anticipating a bit of a pivot sooner than we expected last week. This is causing the markets to go up, and this is at the same time that we actually got some pretty negative news last night. A lot of people are now worried about a collapse of a few different European banks, and it's interesting to see all this happen because last night the futures were red. We had all this bad news about Credit Suisse and a German bank as well falling pretty drastically, causing the market to fall pretty drastically. But yet, like I said, the market is up substantially today because of this new news about Fed pivot. We also got some news about a possible $750 million Bitcoin buy. We also have data coming in from what institutional investors are doing because they are snatching up a few different cryptos. And then we also have Tesla stock falling down drastically here today, down almost 9% on the day. We also have news of Luna, Terra Classic, Luna Classic, also getting some big news here from Binance. So I want to talk about all this, also talk about what I'm buying here today because I went out of my way. I have been dollar cost averaging, but I went out of my way to break that dollar cost average because there was one asset that I just need to buy because it looks so attractive right now. So I apologize for the long intro, but we're going to get into all that. Let's take a look at the market. Dow's up 2.66%, Nasdaq's up 2.27%, S&P up 2.6%. So like I said, we had some pretty bad news last night about Credit Suisse. I forgot the name of the German bank too. It's definitely one that you recognize. But we had two European banks now possibly having some financial problems. And they had their shares fall pretty drastically here today. Now, this is at a time, though, that they are saying, Credit Suisse is saying that they are in a fine position, and they almost seem a little bit defensive, which makes some people think that maybe they're actually in a worse position than we thought, or they are actually in that bad position. Now, the crypto market's looking pretty good today as well, with Bitcoin up 1.4%, ETH up 1%. And dominance going up a little bit for Bitcoin. Now, I do want to say, too, if you want some free shares of moomoo from moomoo, you can use the link underneath the video. They'll give you up to 15 free stocks when you sign up and deposit. So use that link. Look at how much you want to deposit because depending on how much you can get more stocks, depending on if you want to deposit $100 or $2,000. So check that out underneath the video. Now, the reason the market is up today, actually, even with this news, is for a couple different reasons. First of all, we do have the DXY coming down. It was up to almost 115 just last week. Now it's down at 112. So we do have this coming in, and this is tied to the other reasons why we're up today, I believe. We just got news a couple hours ago about UN warning of recession linked to imprudent monetary policy. The UN is warning on Monday of the risk of a monetary policy-induced global recession that would have especially serious consequences for the developing countries and called for a new strategy. They say excessive monetary tightening could usher in a period of stagnation and economic instability for some countries. The United Nations Conference on Trade and Development said in a statement released alongside its annual report, any belief that the central banks will be able to bring down prices by relying on higher interest rates without generating a recession is, the report suggests, an imprudent gamble. So they're basically calling out the U.S., urging them to stop raising rates. So this is really interesting. Obviously, we've already had a couple different European nations start to maybe walk back what they're trying to do in terms of Fed tightening. And the Fed here in the U.S. has been so strict about raising rates that it's caused the dollar to go up drastically. Now, this isn't great for the markets either. It does help us, though, as a country, hold on to that dominance of being having a really strong currency. But it's still bad for U.S.-related stocks. It's bad for business as well because interest rates are going higher. But this is starting to look like the European nations are going to put some pressure on Powell. We also have the fact that just today, we are switching a little bit what we're expecting from 2023 to 2024. So this is going to be the expected difference between January 2023 and January 2024 Fed funds rates. So when we look at this, obviously in June, we saw a terrible market, right? We pretty much bottomed, and then the market turned really green. And that makes sense because we were expecting less and less of a rate hike in 2024 versus 2023. We were expecting throughout 2023 for the markets to turn around because we were expecting the Fed to start cutting rates. We were expecting about 0.5% off. So this happened, and then we started to spike again. The markets got really bad recently because we were expecting them to have to raise rates throughout 2023 into 2024, and we're actually expecting high rates in 2024. We saw this inversion here, and now we're expecting them to lower rates again. Now, Dylan LeClaire said just 10 basis points cuts, but this is still a dramatic difference from about 0.2 or 0.3% higher in 2024 compared to actually 0.1% lower. At least that's how the market's pricing it in. That's why we have this big green day here, is because one, the UN is putting pressure on the US to stop raising rates. Two, this is already being seen in the markets, and you can see it here on the dollar too. We have a lowering dollar because people think that possibly we won't raise rates as much. They think that maybe we'll see that pivot. And a pivot can just be not even lowering rates, but just not raising them as aggressively. So instead of 75 basis points, maybe 50 or 25 basis points. That would be considered a pivot, and this is coming right before elections as well. So we might see this kind of change, and a lot of what the Fed does is delayed. So a lot of people are worried that we're not even going to see the full effects of what the Fed's already done for 6 months to 12 months from now. Now, with this in mind, Bitcoin is also doing pretty well today too. It's up near 19,600, and it looks like it might break through and go up pretty drastically if it breaks through this kind of triangle here. Now, I do have a long here. I just put in a long on BitGet. So if you want to do that as well, you can definitely sign up with the link underneath the video. You'll get $15 worth of free USDT when you sign up to BitGet, and it's a great place if you want a long and short. So I have a 50x long. I'm up maybe about 10% now. I realize that this is really risky, but it's just a very small amount that I have in there for my portfolio. It's really small, but it is kind of fun to sharpen your TA skills. So we'll see if that works out. Now, we do have some news from NYDIG. They're possibly buying $720 million worth of BTC. They just announced that they are raising some money from 59 different investors. So they're averaging about $12 million. This may be pretty substantial. I mean, when you think about how many whole coiners this would take off the markets, because right now the Bitcoin price is pretty low. It's around, like we said, 20,000. This would take away, 36,000 whole coiners. So they're just going to buy this, hold on to it. Now, it's probably over the counter. It probably won't push up the price of Bitcoin very drastically, but you can start to see some more interest happening in crypto, and we're starting to see that a little bit here as well. This is the CoinShares institutional report. We saw a big outflow about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Now, the last 3 weeks, we've seen some inflows. Now, they are minor, and they're pretty interesting how they're coming in, but we do have Bitcoin, about $8 million coming in Bitcoin, $6 million in Ethereum. So that's a couple weeks in a row now since the merge that we've seen Ethereum inflows, some going into short Bitcoin as well. And then most of this is just, all of it's coming from either Sweden or the US. Pretty interesting there. Just two countries really buying right now. But I still think that this is, it's just so uncertain that a lot of people are just holding off on buying crypto until we see some kind of pivot. But we still have some people changing their tune, like Elio Trades, a big YouTuber here. He just announced in a video today that this is the most dangerous moment in economic history, but he's going to start dollar cost averaging here. And he's someone that thought we really were going to see $13,000 Bitcoin and was going to hold off for a while. But Bitcoin's held up so well that we possibly have seen a bottom. Now, I could always be wrong. I've been dollar cost averaging myself. Just because I don't want to bet on the market falling anymore. I just want to take advantage of this because I do think this is a great time to be buying. Speaking about a great time to be buying, there's a stock here today that is down drastically. We have Tesla down nearly 9% during the market here today, down to $242. So if you don't know why this is on a day that the market's up so much, It is because we actually had a pretty big weekend for Tesla. First of all, they had Tesla AI Day. This isn't really the reason that the market is falling, but it might contribute a bit. A lot of people were disappointed with Tesla AI Day. I, on the other hand, was pretty impressed. So I think it depends on what you're looking for. Basically, they showed off their robot. They talked about chips. They talked about their self-driving, their full self-driving, and a host of other things. It was an awesome event. Some people were not impressed by the Tesla robot. It walked on stage, it did some hand waves and that kind of thing. And then they showed some videos of it doing more technical activities. They said, though, that this was the first time that this robot had walked without some kind of tether. Now, some people just aren't impressed by this. They think that other companies like Boston Dynamics have done this for years now, and it's much more impressive what Boston Dynamics is doing. At least it looks more impressive. However, I will say that those are controlled environments for the most part. What Boston Dynamics does, where they're jumping on jump boxes and running and that kind of thing. What Tesla's trying to do is build a robot that can actually interact and actually has a brain. It can actually take information in and then change what it's going to do, what its approach is due to the environment. Think about how simple it would be even just to lose balance if you can't adjust going from something like carpet to wood or something like that, because it does change how you walk. We just don't even think about it. It's just automatic because we're used to walking on different surfaces. But something that does not take any kind of information in would not be able to adjust for that kind of thing. Also, they're trying to make these robots affordable. They don't want some $100,000 robot or $200,000 robot. They want to mass manufacture it. They want to do this for under $20,000. Now, the fact that they just had a working robot after just less than a year of working on this, I thought was really impressive. Now, of course, it's going to be something that they have to work on further. This is not ready for production yet, but I think they're in a really good spot to do this. They already have the manufacturing down at their facilities. They already have the neural nets from having full self-driving. They already have so many things put in place that I think they're going to be able to do this better than just about any other company. Now, the other part of what they announced was their 343,000 vehicles delivered. So we were expecting about 365,000 delivered. Now they produced about 365,000, but they only had deliveries of 343. Now the reason for this is because they're scaling up production towards the end of the quarter. What they produced in the last few days, they weren't able to deliver yet. And this is for a couple different reasons. First of all, they had the hurricane in Florida recently. There's also just a big push at the end of the quarter, but the fact is that they don't really have to cater to these kinds of retail investors and institutional investors anymore and just try to push at any expense to get numbers in. They don't really care if the stock drops or anything like that because of kind of bad numbers towards the end of the quarter, because they realize that they're going to deliver these other 20,000 vehicles just over a week or two after this, most likely. And the fact is they don't have to pay as much if they don't rush it or expedite it, right? Let's say they have $10,000 margin on a car, which it's higher than that. But let's say it's just $10,000. Do they really want to expedite it and lose $1,000 or $2,000 per vehicle just to get those numbers in faster when they could just wait a little bit longer? I think that's where they're thinking it's better just to hold off because they're going to deliver the vehicles just fine. It's just that they don't want to overspend trying to do so. So it will be interesting to see how their Q4 numbers come in. We already have reports and leaks of possibly, I believe it was 450,000 or something like that vehicles, or maybe it was 500,000 vehicles that they're shooting for in Q4, which would be a huge increase from this quarter, about 35% or so. So it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of this. I think it's going to be really a good fourth quarter for Tesla, and I had to buy today. I couldn't wait till tomorrow just in case it rebounded a bit. I usually dollar cost average on Tuesdays and Thursdays into the stock market, but I put in a larger buy than usual, and I had to buy today because it's such a juicy price buying Tesla here today. I also wanted to sell some calls. I've been having Tesla as my main position in my covered call portfolio, which I did not touch today. I'm not selling calls when Tesla's down at 242 because I think it's too attractive. But I could always be wrong. So do your research. I think it is important to look at this though too. they're expecting that the estimates coming from analysts are expecting $4.32 in earnings per share in 2023. Now, just 8 years later, actually from 2022 to 2030, they're expecting this to go up 150%. So 2.5x what they're doing this year, they're expecting in 2020 or 2030. So they're only expecting, the analysts are only expecting the earnings per share to go up 12% compounded annually. I think this is much too low. They're expecting 50% growth in revenue and in deliveries over the coming years. I think their earnings per share is going to go up just as much, if not more than this. So this is just a sandbag number. I think this is much too low years down the line to think they're going to have $11 in earnings per share. It's way too low. I think they're going to blow this out. So just look on the long term, and Tesla's looking pretty cheap right now, in my opinion, at least compared to where it normally is. Now, there's one last thing I want to cover, which is Binance burning $1.8 million in LUNC trading fees. Now, Binance really does try to listen to the community. So what they're doing is essentially they're going to burn the trading fees. As I understand, they're not even taking trading fees for any trades in LUNC, which I think is really positive. Now, they also have a 1.2% burn, I believe, for LUNC as well, just like a fee for buying and selling, which I don't really like those as much just because it stops people from wanting to trade at all. But this is still pretty positive. This is a substantial amount because I believe this is just from 1 week. So every week they're going to burn LUNC, Luna Terra Classic, and 1.8 million is really substantial when you consider that's 100 million basically over a year, and the market cap is about 2 billion. So that would be about 5% of the circulating supply, and that's not even the 1.2% burn. Now, I'm not trying to pump you up about LUNC or anything like that. It's down 12% on the day. I don't hold any LUNC myself. I've been dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin, but I realize that a lot of people are looking towards Terra Luna Classic and wondering what's going to happen next. So I think the burn is positive. I don't know how well Terra Luna Classic will actually do going forward, but it is something interesting to watch with the huge story that it was this last year. So again, check out the link underneath the video to moomoo, where you can get 15 free stocks just by depositing. You can also check out the link to BitGet, where you can trade and start getting some free USDT today. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.